Welcome back. Happy Tuesday to you. If it's Tuesday, you know it's Jason Sukamel Day. After delivering all the goods, Jason, you got to follow up on signing day. Jason, we haven't really talked since signing day, actually. So I want to get your thoughts, maybe a little bit on the signing day class. Transfer portal is open for business. And then I want to talk about the top targets in the 2026 class. So everybody's come in. Hit the like button, subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so. Hey, Jason, just kind of backtracking, though, a little bit from last week. And hell, I don't think we even talked about Justice Terry or anything to that effect. So give me your thoughts on the class and then what they did on Friday as well.
It feels like forever ago, right? Story of our lives. Do we cover all that crap? And then we have the game on Saturday. Of course, you travel to the game. And then portal opens on Monday. So, dude, there's no downtime. But, yeah, the Justice Terry thing, I tell you, last week kind of went about as expected. There were two surprises. One was Kellen Wiley committing to to Miami, the linebacker. Mm-hmm. And the only reason that was a surprise because everything we'd heard had been Miami. He's probably going to go to Miami. But about 2 weeks ago, I don't care if I can say it now, we saw someone made a commitment graphic for him, and they sent it to us too. Like, hey, FYI for Texas. So we're like, okay, this looks pretty good for Texas, right? So, he ends up committing to Miami after not even taking a Miami official visit. Whatever, that one was weird, not a huge deal. Then Justice Terry, of course, announced on Friday. He didn't do it on Wednesday like everybody else. I will say that's a bit of a surprise. I don't remember exactly what I've said on this show on where I can't.
I know.
Remember what I had for dinner last night, but I know that we reported on Orange Bloods and we had said probably on the show like, hey, Texas is more in that than people realize. Mm-hmm. And they're swinging for the fences there. And then when Mike Fasusi signed with Oklahoma, that gave Texas even a little bit more leverage there. So, of course, Justice Terry on Friday winds up committing and signing with Texas. So that elevated Texas all the way up to number 2 in the Rivals.com team ratings. I think they were number 1 on some other ones, but for the Rivals ones, they're number 2. So, yeah, I mean, tremendous class, tremendous finish. You get, obviously, Michael Terry on Wednesday, which we kind of knew that was coming. Cade Phillips flipped. Oh, you know what? Cade Phillips flipped last Tuesday at like 9:30. I was signing off of your show. And I looked down at my phone. And he goes, "Hey, I'm doing it right now." I'm like, "Oh shit!" So
we had just finished talking about Cade Phillips.
Yes,
and literally 2 minutes later, that happened.
Yeah, I knew it was coming sometime on Tuesday. I didn't expect it to be like literally right as I was getting off the air with you. But yeah, I mean, it's a really good finish for Texas. I mean, the Fasusi news. If you want to be a glass half empty guy, okay, Fasusi sticks with Oklahoma. But we kind of thought that might be the case too after having to talk to Fasusi after that Texas visit. So, yeah, kind of a whirlwind end of the week, Anwar, but very productive week for Texas on the recruiting front.
The Terry thing, did it surprise you at all that he picked Texas? Obviously, he was down to Texas and Georgia.
No. Justice. I was thinking Michael Terry. I'm sorry.
Oh no. Oh God, no. But he was down to Texas and Georgia. Auburn was kind of somewhat in the mix. They were kind of lurking around, but it seemed like it was the top 2 that it was going to be when it was all said and done. Were you surprised that he did pick Texas, and how much of a huge get is it to take someone basically out of Georgia's backyard and get them to come over to UT?
Yeah, it's huge. But was I surprised? A little bit. And let me tell you, we've been hearing for, like I said, a couple, 2-3 weeks, hey, Texas is in the mix here more than people realize. And it's Texas and Georgia. You're right. Auburn was flirting in there too, and Alabama and USC. But we kept hearing, hey, Texas is a bigger player than people think. Last week, all week, we kept hearing, hey, there's some confidence in Austin. Right? So in that regards, it wasn't a surprise. But still, anytime there's a D tackle from Georgia, 5-star guy, you're still like, okay, I'll believe it when I see it, right? So I didn't really believe it, despite some of the things we were hearing behind the scenes for really about 3 weeks, and then especially last week. It was still a bit of a surprise, right? I mean, listen, I was watching his announcement online, and I didn't know where he was going to pick. He didn't tell the coaches, so there was confidence in Austin, but people in Austin didn't know they were going to land him. Our Georgia site for Rivals sent their recruiting guy down there because they thought he was going to Georgia. I talked to him the day of that announcement. Our guy from our Georgia site, I'm like, hey, we're hearing like it's going to be Texas, man. He goes, I don't know. We're still pretty confident. He goes, I'm going down there, whatever. I'll get you quotes if it winds up being Texas. So, So, yes and no was the answer. Was I surprised? We kind of saw it coming. We had some intel that said it might happen, but it's still one of those deals like, okay, I got to actually see it happen before I fully believe it. How big is it? It's huge because, that's the biggest need position Texas really had is a defensive tackle. And he is an elite 5-star, top 10, really, I think consensus. I think every recruiting service has right around or in the top 10 in the country. So it's not like Rivals is an outlier by having this guy as a highly ranked defensive tackle. Texas, I can't remember, Onward. I'd have to really go back and find the last time Texas had an interior defensive lineman ranked as highly as Justice Terry that signed with them. Malcolm Brown out of Brenham way back when was a 5-star, but I don't think he was top 10 in the country. I have to go back and look at that. But, I've said for years, especially when Bo Davis was here, I said, hey, Texas recruits pretty well along the defensive line, but they've never gone out and just got those super true blue chip, almost can't miss type guys. Those are the guys they need to get. They got one in Justice Terry.
It sounds like a huge get. So when you look at the class, Jason, what positions do you feel like Texas really loaded up on? What was the position of strength, and what was it? Is there an area that you said, maybe they could have done a little bit better, maybe not bad, but I don't want to obviously crap on it, but you just want to say, okay, where do you think the strength was of this 2025 class, and where do you think probably could have done a little bit better, and they may have to do some more in the portal?
Yeah, I'll go backwards on that. Where they have to do better is along the offensive line. Okay, they didn't get Fasusi. John Mills flips to Washington, so they end up with a 4-man offensive line class, and Nick Brooks is a Rivals 250 guy, but the other guys are, they're all 3-star guys. So Texas has to be better along the offensive line. I've written my 3-2-1 column. I'm going to post it after you and I are done. And I'm ranking some of the top players that I think they have to get in that 2026 class. And I almost put like 4 offensive linemen in the top 4 spots. It's that important that they do well along the offensive line next year. Where did they load up? That's a good question. It's a really good receiver class, especially if you're factoring Michael Terry in there. That's probably the excuse me, the number one position. It's all those guys are highly ranked. Dalen McCutcheon, he's the guy that nobody talks about as much because he's not as highly ranked and he's a fairly late commitment. But even he's right along outside that Rivals 100. So he's an elite player of their own. Honestly, they did. When you factor in the way they closed and they held on to Myron Charles, they did really well along the defensive line. I know Myron Charles is technically listed as a defensive end. I don't think he's going to be a defensive end, but if you factor him at defensive tackle, they held on to Josiah Sharma. They land Justice Terry. They did really well at defensive tackle, and that was a really big need for them.
It sounds good. So the portal obviously opened for business. And Texas had a few guys that entered in yesterday. Let's just kind of go through them a little bit, Jason, just to kind of get your thoughts on some of the guys who are going out. The names are Aaron Bryan, Darian Gullette. I don't know. I never knew how to pronounce Akana's first name. How do you pronounce his first name, by the way?
Tossilia, I think is how you say it.
Tossilia, okay. Of course, Bledsoe he was supposed to go in beforehand, and of course, Jonte Cook prior to that. Start with Aaron Bryant. First of all, I'll be honest with you. I'll start with this. Anybody surprised on this list for you, Jason?
No, Jonte a little bit, I guess, but that's so long ago. But no, of the guys that have declared in the last few days, not at all. They'll have that same profile, right? They're all guys that are buried on the depth chart, probably weren't going to play at Texas. I don't begrudge them. Go somewhere else and try to find a spot where you can play, and who knows, maybe you can surprise some people and showcase your talents. But no real surprises onward. I think you and I both expect more to come, right?
Yeah, I mean, I would say so. It seems like, Jason, I'm just kind of going through this kind of, a little bit. No, so, a couple of these guys are in-state, and a couple of these guys are out-of-state guys. You would probably expect, as more guys enter the portal, Jason, my belief has been, and let's see if you agree with me, Texas has never really lost a guy that they wanted to keep in the transfer portal. Like, when the guys have gone, usually it's the guys who aren't playing a lot, like you said, buried on the depth chart. It feels like if there's a guy that Texas wants to keep, they'll keep him. They'll fight to keep him. But it seems like most of these guys who go in, it's not really a huge loss when it's all said and done. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, I think so. Were Cam Rising and Casey Thompson, were they actual portal guys, or are they just transfers? Was the
Cam
portal
Rising's been so long ago?
I know, right? Was the portal around? But he didn't. I mean, maybe you could argue that they wanted to keep Cam, but that was so long ago. In terms of the portal lately, like, no, I don't really think so. I mean, Jonte Cook's a tremendous player, but I don't think anybody at Texas is crying about him leaving, and just some of the outside elements that maybe that were distracting. So. There was who was the lineman who Andre Carrick, I think, ended up going to Tennessee, and a pretty decent player, but Texas didn't miss him, right? He would. No. I don't think
they're in the playoffs.
Yeah, they're in the playoffs. There was the other lineman that went to SMU. I'm drawing a blank on his name. I can picture him, but blonde-haired kid. I went there and was an all-conference player for them. But again, Texas didn't miss him. Texas is perfectly fine along the offensive line. So I can't really think of any on where there's a couple guys who have left and you're like, okay, no big loss. And then surprisingly, they've been, pretty decent players, but nobody that I think Texas was really fighting too hard. I mean, a lot of these guys, let's be honest, they meet with the coaches and they have their exit meetings. And it's like, hey man, you might want to go try your hand somewhere else just to see how it works out for you. So a lot of times it's not just that Texas isn't fighting to keep them. It's that they're almost encouraging them to find a new home. Logan Parr, thank you, Money B. Yeah, this is the offensive lineman. Yeah.
What about Jere Bledsoe, though? I'm kind of curious. We heard some good things from him in the spring, and Jere Bledsoe. We heard some good. I felt like there was some good positive notes that came from him, and then really didn't hear much out of that after Jere Bledsoe. I think he was also working at edge, or I felt like he was going inside and outside with him. What was that like from like a recruiting perspective? Like, how highly recruited was he? Because it does still seem like at the end of the day, Texas, still they're going to need guys at defensive tackle. Now the portal cures all, but I'm just curious about Jere Bledsoe for a second, though.
Yeah, he was an interesting story. If you look back at his recruitment, he's at Marlin High School. He transferred there. He had to sit out his senior year because the school he transferred from threw a fit. And UIL stepped in and said, okay, you have to sit out. So he didn't play. He came into Texas, he's very out of shape, which, you can kind of understand it, right? He didn't play, didn't have an off-season program. And just never really found his footing at Texas. He was a fairly highly rated prospect. He was a borderline Rivals 100 guy there for a lot of his recruitment. Ironically, he and Darian Gullette were high school teammates. Now, Gullette wound up finishing his senior year at Teague High School, where his dad started coaching basketball. But they were both high school teammates at Marlin, and they're both now in the transfer portal. Yeah, Gullette, he's kind of a guy like without a home in terms of a position. He's not going to be an edge guy. He's not going to beat out the guys that Texas has on the roster and coming in at edge. He's not quite big enough maybe to be a true interior guy. Is he going to beat out any of the transfer portal guys that Texas got last year, and they'll probably get a couple this year? Probably not. Is he going to beat out Justice Terry? I don't know. Probably not. So it just makes sense. I mean, I just don't think there was a path to him being successful at Texas. But he's a guy that has upside. If you can really tap into that, he still has some potential, just like Darian Gullette. Darian Gullette's a big guy who can really run. He's a really good athlete. Those guys have potential. We just haven't seen them kind of tap into it at Texas. And, maybe a change of pay or a change of scenery will be what they need. And, I appreciate both those guys covering them as recruits. So I hope I hope they both do well, but it just wasn't going to happen at Texas.
So we got a $20 super chat that came in. He says Cam Coleman, Ryan Williams in the portals, Texas going after these guys. Isn't the Ryan Williams thing kind of
Kevin? Yeah. I don't think it's legit. There was a tweet about Ryan Williams in the portal, but it was unless something's happened in the last 20 minutes, it was from a fake account. I'm assuming I haven't even seen Cam Coleman. I'm assuming those are probably fake accounts too. So these dude, I saw it, and then
yeah,
was there something about Dylan Raiola? There was something about another stud player going to the train. I'm like, and they're all fake. I'm like, oh my god, this has already jumped the shark. These fake transfer portal posts, and they'll use like one guy was doing like according to On3, but it wasn't on 3, it was on E, like the logo that he put on the ground. It wasn't like stealing their logo. But it's like, oh my God, this is getting annoying as what already. All these, this guy's in the transfer portal. And they do all these graphics and make it look all authentic. So I haven't seen Cam Coleman, Kevin. I would be shocked if that's legit. The Ryan Williams thing was a fake an account, someone trying to troll you. Again, unless something's happened since we've been on the air. No, Ryan Williams is not in the portal.
Yeah.
Malik Murphy is. We saw that last night. And
your boy.
Yeah, my boy Malik.
Your boy leads into a 9-3 season. And you're like, all right, good job, Malik. Like you got your footing, you've got your starting job, all is good. And then your boy's in the portal.
Like, I gotta wonder, and Malik's like, I loved Malik as a recruit. I haven't talked to him in a couple of years, of course, but does he know something we don't know? It's like UCLA or somebody need a quarterback. He wants to go back home. Is there a bigger program that needs a quarterback that's been talking to him or his people behind the scenes? I don't know. I'll be curious to see where Malik shows up. I don't think he would put himself in the portal, put his name in the portal, if he didn't already know that he has a pretty good destination lined up. I don't think, right?
Yeah, no, it makes no sense.
If you put his name in the portal, like, oh shit, Duke was my best option. What do you do then? Go crawling back to Duke? So, I don't know what's going to happen there, but I love Malik, so I'll be rooting for him wherever he winds up.
I mean, look, maybe you're Oregon, you say, hey, we got to need that quarterback. Would love to have you there. He's already proven himself. We know he's a hell of a prospect. So he
did pretty well at Duke. I don't have his numbers, but he threw for a lot of yards and touchdowns, but he also turned the ball over a lot. So wherever he goes, he's going to have to clean up the interception.
So Jason, as we're on the transfer portal thing, let's think about Texas for a second. As the portal opened up on Monday, I know you have a list of needs, but if there's just the number one area that you feel like Texas needs to address in the transfer portal this offseason, what's that number one area for you?
It's not sexy, but it's special teams. Honestly, punter and kicker. I hate bashing on Michael Kern, right? He hears it. I don't know if he hears it, but we see it on Orange Bloods. We see it on our OB Live videos every week. But the guy just wasn't good this year. And unless you think he's going to take a big jump from his freshman to sophomore season, which I don't necessarily see that. Maybe a quarterback, you can see that somewhat, but a punter kind of is what he is, right? He can either punt, he either has a big leg or he doesn't. Texas was giving up with Georgia, I forget what it was, but net punting, 8 yards per net punt or something like that. You can't lose field position, those hidden yardage things every single week. Bert Auburn, we know Bert has the capability of being good. Bert's a senior. He didn't walk, did he? Bert, he didn't walk with one.
No, I don't believe he did.
So Bert will probably come back. He has a redshirt year he could use. So we know Bert has the capability of being good because whatever it was, I guess his sophomore year or something, he was really good. But last year was this year he really struggled. So I just think they really need to improve their kicking game and punting game. And then you need some depth at defensive tackle. I put they probably could use some experience and depth at tight end, interior offensive line. And there's a lot of places. Sark's probably going to go depending on what happens with the receivers on campus. But if, some of those dudes leave to go pro, they need to go out and probably find another experienced receiver. So there's a lot of areas, but if you're asking me what's the most glaring, I'm like, fix your special teams.
I mean, but here, Jason, herein lies an issue. I think with what you're saying, and it has nothing to do with you, right? It's more of a numbers thing. They already have 2 kickers on scholarship at Texas.
Counting Burt.
Burt, Auburn, Will Stone.
Yeah.
They've already got 2 kickers. Now you talk about you have Michael Kern, and then if you bring in another punter, that's 4 scholarships taken up for 2 positions where you should only have 1 and a walk-on, basically. Like that. Yeah. That is how you should have 1 scholarship kicker, 1 backup who's a walk-on, 1 scholarship punter.
They have a scholarship deep snapper too.
Yeah. I mean, those are look. I mean, Jeff Banks, cool man. Like he's a cool dude, but you can't give like him 5 scholarships for players for positions that you should only really need 2 for.
And they got 4, which is like now that's a lot. And these special teams I got shit every week when I do my matchups. Are you ever going to give Texas this advantage in special teams? Like, well, no. Why would I? These other teams are better. Just yeah, so they already have 4. Well, Burt was a walk-on, of course. They gave him the scholarship. And he just hasn't – he's almost regressed since getting the scholarship. Will Stone is just a kickoff guy. I mean, that's all he is, right? I mean –
you can't have a scholarship for a guy that just does kickoffs. Like that.
They brought him in with the thinking that he would be their place kicker. I mean, it's not like they gave him a scholarship after he was on campus. They gave him a scholarship coming out of high school. He just didn't materialize the way they thought. That was just a recruiting miss. You can't take it away from him now. I mean, you could maybe, hey, Will, if you want to go transfer to SMU, maybe you could kick field goals and do kickoffs. I don't know. But yeah, you're right, dude. But they've got to improve that area. But how many scholarships can you give to kickers and punters? You're right. That'd be 3 kickers and 2 punters if they brought in a kicker and a punter. Plus a deep snapper. That'd be 6 scholarships.
6 guys for those positions. Like, come on, man. Like this is, one guy punts on the 20 and the other guy punts on the 40. Like, I mean, like, what are we going to do here? Like this guy kicks off in the rain. This guy kicks off in the heat. Like that's just too much.
Your home kicker and your away kicker. Yeah. Burt's a senior. I mean, I don't think you do this, but does Burt transfer? I mean, I don't think. I mean, again, kickers are weird, man. It's kind of like a golfer or a 3-point shooter, whatever. Like they can get hot, right? Burt just needs to get hot because we know he has it in him. We've seen it before, but like I don't know if it's in his head now or what. But he's just, I mean, he did hit 4 field goals in the championship game, and he missed 2 also. So, yeah, I don't know what the answer is there, but they got to find some way to shore up the kicking and punting game.
So last year, Jason, Texas goes into the portal and they bring in a bunch of defensive tackles, and I feel like when Sark got started, they were kind of iffy on the portal and what kind of impact they would have, and they didn't really go after impact kind of players, right? I feel like now that's different. I feel like now Sark's like, hey, if you played, you were productive at another spot, we're going to bring you in. Do you think next year or this year we'll probably see a repeat of more defensive tackles in the portal that they'll bring in?
Yeah, I think so, because you're going to lose every one of those guys you brought in last year, right? Are they all? I think they're all gone. They're all seniors, right? They're all seniors.
I'm looking at it. Alfred Collins is a senior. Start there. Jermaine Lele is a senior. Vernon Broughton's a senior. Savea is a senior as well. Bill Norton is a senior. I mean, that's leaving you at the nose position with Aaron Bryan and Sadir Mitchell.
No, Bryan's gone too now. So yeah,
Aaron Bryan. And then you've got from the defensive tackle position, you've got Alex January.
Which I like Alex January. He's got potential. He's got upside. So
I mean that's pretty much it though.
Yeah, all those guys are seniors.
I mean, and Sadir Mitchell, of course. Sadir Mitchell.
Yeah, and Sadir came on there at the end. All those guys are seniors. I don't know if any of them have like a red shirt year they could God, do people still use COVID years? I can't even keep
Yeah.
up. But yeah,
this was supposed to be the last year of COVID year. I felt like
okay.
I felt like I heard people say this is the last year COVID year. But that being said, Cam Rising's coming back for his 8th year, so who the hell knows?
Exactly. So, but yes, I in my column that I'll post here in a little bit. Yeah, I mean, D tackle was on pretty high on my list, and I think they'll go out and get at least a couple. Will they get 3 like they did last year? I don't know, but I think they'll try to find a couple. To kind of keep reloading that position, and then you recruited it pretty well this year. In a perfect world, you want to get to a point where you have this young stud talents out of high school, and those are the guys you're grooming, and maybe when they're sophomores and juniors, and that thing just keeps rolling, right? But Texas isn't in that position right now. I mean, frankly, Bo Davis left them in a bit of a pinch, so didn't recruit that position terribly well. So they're having to reload through the portal at defensive tackle. Now, they signed a good group this year. If they can sign a good group next year, then maybe you finally get out of that cycle where you don't need to take guys from the portal for depth and starting experience. So to answer your question, yes, I fully expect them to take at least a couple guys at defensive tackle out of the portal.
Last year, again, leaning on that, right? So Sark had receivers that he could say, all right, well, it's your turn. It's your turn. It's your time to shine. And Sark was like, these guys ain't got no experience, so I'm going to go back. I got to get some portal guys. Do you think once again he goes after those receivers and says, all right, I've got some guys. They're young. And I got some up and coming guys. I got Ryan Wingo, who's an up and comer, and I got DeAndre Moore is going to come back. Like, I've got some guys, and I guess we have to just figure out what Isaiah Bond is going to do. Like, I don't know I don't know how fast, if he runs fast in the combine, that's one thing. I don't know how high his stock really is. He hasn't really been healthy.
Yeah, I mean, he was talked all year as a first-round guy, but with the injuries over the last, month and a half or something, is that still the case? I don't know. So does he come back? Does Matthew Golden go pro with the way he's been playing lately? I mean, I don't know what Silas is a senior, I believe, right? Because he came in as a grad transfer. Yeah, I think Silas. Yes. Silas. But you've got Wingo. You mentioned DeAndre Moore. Are guys like Parker Livingston ready to step up? Aaron Butler, excuse me, the kid out of Cali. I don't know. And obviously they're bringing in 3 or 4, if you count Michael Terry, really good ones this year. So you've got a lot of young guys. I think really talented players in that wide receiver room, but it sure wouldn't hurt to have another Matthew Golden, just a guy with experience that can come in, and Isaiah Bond when he's healthy, obviously, that is a proven commodity, as Ketch likes to say, the guarantee on the box with those guys, right? So I think they probably will, but it's kind of like you said, it's up in the air because we don't really know what's going to happen with some of these guys on the roster, whether they're going to go pro, whether they're planning on coming back. So I think there's some moving parts to that one.
Yeah, but the thing is, again, everyone assumed, for instance, like Jonte, and probably Jonte himself assumed that, all right, I'm the 5-star, I'm the next man up. And Sark's like, no, I need experience. And it's kind of what I was saying to Catch yesterday was kind of, when you're winning, you definitely want to stay on top. So the last thing you want to do is go through any kind of rebuild, especially if you're Sark. Like you want to have all the guys who check the boxes, because I just don't want to have this uncertainty that's out there. So, but you're right. Like you got to find out what Isaiah Bond is going to do, and I think Isaiah, for me, Jason, I think Isaiah Bond is the key, because if Isaiah Bond says, "Hey, I'm going to come back. I need to, my stock is maybe day 2."
You're pretty good, right? You've got him, you've got DeAndre Moore in the slot, you've got Wingo. I mean, you're pretty good, dude. I mean, you're top heavy with those 3, and then you just got to develop some of those younger guys, right? So
yeah, I mean, absolutely. You've got those guys, like you said, Parker Livingstone is starting to come on just a little bit. And then like you said, you still got some other guy, Aaron Butler. He'll get healthy. He hurt himself towards his senior year. He hurt himself, but then he hurt his
No,
foot.
I think you're thinking of Freddie DeBose and Parker Livingston.
DeBose. I
Parker
apologize.
Livingston too. Yeah.
So those guys are getting healthy. So you come back with them.
I don't know what Ben G is responding to, but I'm just saw in the chat like Keith Williams. We got to get that stud linebacker out of Grayson. He's talking about Tyler Atkinson. Benji, good timing. I don't know what the conversation led to that, but here in a little bit, I'm going to post my column, and I did rank the top 10 guys I think Texas has to get in the 2026 class, and I got Tyler Atkinson as number 2 on my list. He's a guy that could come in and be a day one starter for Texas at linebacker. He likes a lot, by the way.
Yes, thank you for reminding me about what the show title was about. Let's do just a couple of more positions, and we'll go from there. Sark likes to bring in tight ends. I mean, that seems to be a thing with him. It seems to be every year he'll bring in a tight end. They lose Gunnar Helm. Juan Davis is out as well. Obviously, they love was this Jordan Washington?
Jordan Washington, the freshman. Yeah,
they love him, but that seems like that would be an area where, okay, I can't say for sure Amari Niblack is going to be the guy. Seems like there'll be another area that they will look at if there's an opportunity, right?
Yeah, I had that one pretty high on my list too. Was tight end I don't know what to make of Niblack, if I'm being honest. I mean, he's a good athlete. We know that. He didn't quite have the impact this year that I think maybe most people, maybe I'm just speaking for myself, but I sure thought he'd have a bigger impact than he did. So I don't know that you can count on him being the guy next year. You got Jordan Washington. You got a guy like Spencer Shannon, the guy out of California, but he's never played or done much. Then you've got a couple coming in this year, including Nick Townsend, who I think is really, really good, but he's going to be a true freshman. So do I think it would be smart to go out and get a proven commodity? It's probably not going to be someone of Gunnar Helm's capabilities, right? Or JT Sanders. No, you're not going to probably find one of those types. But if you could find just a reliable tight end that can come in and be in that mix, in that rotation, I think that's an important position. I expect that'll be one they look for as well.
Last one, running back. What do you do in this running back room? You got CJ Baxter, but this is the second year that he's had an injury, so he'll be coming back. We know Sark loves him, but you've got CJ Baxter that's there. Christian Clark will be coming off of an injury as well. These running backs. I mean, you got Trey Wisner. Jarek Gibson doesn't play a ton at this moment. Jaden Blue just kind of seems to be a guy that they don't want to 100% give up on, but he doesn't get all the opportunities that we thought he would get going into the season. Is that a position that they just say, you know what, we could probably upgrade here as well?
You know what? I'm in the minority, and I know this. I don't think you need one. You've got your top 2 backs coming back. Jarek Gibson, as a true freshman, didn't play a ton, but he was pretty decent when he played. You're going to get your 2 injured backs should be healthy for next year, including Baxter, who might be the number 1 back on the team if he's healthy. Someone in the chat said Niblett. Yeah, Niblett's in the mix. You've got 2 incoming freshmen who, see what those dudes can do. I don't know, man. I know people keep saying, you need a veteran, you need some experience there. I just don't think you do. I mean, again, you've got your top 2 guys, top 3 guys coming back. Then you add CJ Baxter. What we don't know what Christian Clark's going to give. He was only a freshman this year and he didn't get to play. So I just think you've got enough bodies to throw at this running back position, and 2 or 3 of them are going to elevate. And I think you're fine at running back. I mean, I can understand why people say, okay, we need a proven commodity, a veteran guy that's going to be there week in and week out. But Trey Wisner kind of showed you can be that guy if they're not playing Georgia. But against anybody else, you can kind of be that guy. So I just don't think running back, I've got it on my list. Like, let me look at my column that I'm going to post. It's when I ranked my positions of need at the portal, it's number 8. It's now only ranked 8 of them. Okay. So it's my lowest ranked need. And again, I know some people won't agree with me, but I just think they've got enough bodies on there at that position, especially if Baxter comes back healthy.
Okay, so now that we got a full room here, Jason, let's start talking. Let's look ahead to 2026, and let's start looking ahead to the guys that are important. It's never too early for that. We know that, once we get into spring, guys are going to be taking visits. There'll be pool parties. There'll be all kinds of things. Who is first of all, just the number one guy in 2026 that you say, okay, who is that guy? Who's your Fasusi for that you say, okay, this is the guy Texas must have?
Well, it's interesting you say Fasusi, because with Texas missing on Fasusi, it's easy for me. It's John Turntine, the offensive lineman. If you're here in the state of Texas, he's a borderline 5-star. He will be a 5-star as these rankings get up. And I've got him on my list as the number one need for Texas in that 2026 cycle. I mean, you can say, hey, Diabell. I mean, Diabell's an amazing quarterback. Well, he's already committed for one, so it didn't include committed guys. But yeah, Turntine, fantastic player. He's been to Austin a ton. He's got a sister. Yeah, 22 national ranked player. So that would put him as a 5-star as they expand those rankings out. He's got a sister that I think one goes to school somewhere in Austin here, and then another one was starting at Texas this year, transferring in. It's her first year at Texas. He's been to a ton of recruiting events. I just think Texas is in a good spot there, and they need to be, because, in my opinion, he is the most important player on the Texas recruiting board for next year.
I mean, he's got, if I'm just going through here, just quick look, it seems like it's safe to say everybody has offered him. Is that what it's safe?
Yeah, he could pick up the phone literally today and call any school in the country. And he's a high character kid too. So he's, there are no concerns with John Turntine in terms of his physical ability, his character, his academics. I think his dad played at TCU, so he's got some good bloodlines in him. But yeah, he's no concerns at all about John Turntine. He could commit to any school in the country tomorrow.
So far he's been on campus, it looks like, here 3 times.
Well, honestly, those are recruiting events right there that you're looking at. And he's been to a couple games this year, but I didn't see him, so I didn't. But it's been more than 3, I promise you. Okay,
gotcha. Okay, so now here, as I go through this name pops up. So give me I got some PTSD. It's too soon. It's too soon. Is Oklahoma a early contender in here, or is it too early to kind of handicap this race?
It's a little early, but I mean, schools like Oklahoma, A&M, some regional schools, but I don't think Turntine is afraid of venturing outside of the region either. But I'll say this. I talked to someone, this is a couple months ago, so it's a little bit dated, and I said, hey, thoughts on Turntine? And this guy said, hey, I think Texas is the team to beat, and I don't even know who I'd put second at this point. So I think it's Texas's race to lose for sure. And, I'm sure. So most December's, well, it's not a dead period now, but then we're going to get into a dead period that takes us into January. This is a weird year, this recruiting calendar, because there's some dead periods in January going into February. And you got all these teams playing in college football playoffs. So because normally January is when we'd start seeing all these junior days and things like that. But how do you schedule that if you're Texas? Because you don't know when you will or won't be playing, right? So the safest thing, what I'm thinking, if I'm Texas, I've talked to some recruits and they're like, oh yeah, I want to go to Texas Junior Day. Have they talked to you about a date? They're like, nope, haven't heard. And they understand. But maybe do it that last weekend in January, because right after the national championship, because if you're Texas, your hope is that you're playing on January 20th, right? Is the national championship game?
Yes.
So yeah, your hope Texas, you're playing on January 20th. So maybe schedule a junior day for that 25th or something, that following Saturday, and start kind of getting guys lined up now. But it's a tricky balance right now with the portal, obviously the college football playoff. There's still some schools doing some recruiting for their 2025 class, and you're trying to prepare for 2026 already. So yeah, crazy times, dude. And then we get into February and it's a dead period and the portal's closed. And I'm like, hallelujah. Bring on
Vegas you go. Vegas you go with the Wyatt.
I don't know where I'm going. I'm going somewhere for a weekend in Vegas in February. Yeah.
Tyler Atkinson, he's another guy who's on your list, Jason.
Yeah.
Give me your thoughts on Tyler here.
Big time player. You see their outside linebacker. He's visited Texas a couple times, and I did communicate. I mean, see, they're number 8 national player in the country. So this is a guy that, I said, well, hey, he could come in and be a day one starter for you. He's that talented, that much of an impact player. And they've recruited that school well. So they've got some kind of ties to that school, if you will. He's visited Texas a couple times. He came in, I think it was for the Georgia game. He came in this year. And I talked to his dad and kind of talked to Tyler through his dad and said, hey, man, it was a great visit. Texas is a really strong contender. He hasn't officially put out a list. I don't think you can see that offer list is pretty ridiculous, right? But
yeah.
And so see, that needs to be updated. He came in for the pool party, I believe it was the weekend after the pool party last year. But then he also came in for a game this year. So he's been on campus a couple times. And I think Texas is, we're talking about an elite player in the state of Georgia. Again, it's going to be tough, but Texas is, they've got a good shot, and they've recruited, that school before. So they've got a chance, I think,
that's the Nick Brooks school, correct?
Yeah, Nick Brooks and Mbachi was there too, but he ended up at Florida.
Yeah. God, this school is a powerhouse of talent here, right?
Yeah, they've got some pretty elite talent there for sure. And Tyler might be the best of the bunch. Yeah.
I was gonna say, every time we turn around, it's one of these kids from Grayson, Loganville. What high school is this called here? Is it Grayson High School?
Loganville's the city, and it's Grayson High School. Yeah.
My gosh, those guys are ballers out there. I'm impressed. All right, I'm just gonna keep popping them on the screen here, Jason. We'll knock them out. Brock Harris, a tight end.
Really good player.
Utah, huh?
Yeah, Utah. He visited Texas last spring, I believe it was. Really good player. And it's just a need position. I mean, Texas needs a true tight end. I mean, look at 6'6", 240. I mean, this is a true do-it-all tight end that can block, he can catch, he can do a little bit of everything. So, I've got him on my list. I'm guessing you're just pulling from my list. So I've got him number 3 on my list. He's an elite tight end that can really do it all. So, and he'll be an asset.
The number 1 tight end in the state, a number 1 prospect in the state of Utah. My only question is, do they have a number 2 prospect in the state of Utah? I mean, I'm just saying. I'm not saying. I'm just saying.
Yeah, but he's really good. I saw him at the Rivals 5-star last year, and he's a good looking prospect.
He is. Okay, so and he's been on campus at least once here.
Yes, he's visited once, and I expect, in fact, I think he came in. No, he was going to come in for the Georgia game, but he told me that like a month before he was coming to the Georgia game. And I need to follow up with him and say, hey, did you come and actually make it in? Because I didn't see him. But if he came in, I need to update that database. Yeah.
Okay, so let's get into your other tight end here. Not tight end, offensive lineman, Zaden Krempin. Am I saying it correctly? Krempin?
Yeah. Yep. There were a lot of offensive linemen I could have put on this list. I went with Zaden. There's a Felix Orges and guy, OG, I think his name's another guy that's really good. Zaden's a guy that's been on campus a few times. I mean, A&M likes him a lot too, and vice versa. So Texas is going to have to battle there. But I'm just my list is top heavy with offensive linemen because Texas needs to load up on him, and including the next one that you'll pull up as an offensive lineman as well. So, if they can get Krempin and Turntine, those are 2 pretty good bookend tackles in that 2026 class. Then you need to start finding some interior guys.
It's interesting. It says they list DeBoer as one of the guys who recruited him out there in Alabama. Don't always see and then look, I got Venables here. All right, let's see what Jason put down here. All right, Jason put down Kyle Fuentes, Sarkisian. I'm just making sure.
Most of them, we got A&M's got the head coach on there too. So yeah, he must. I don't know why that's like that with him, but
like Sonny Dykes is this like why are they listing the head coaches for this guy? Don't see that too often.
No, you really don't, honestly.
And then so it looks like, it looks like, if I'm just going off of this and assuming there's been more, looks like there's a lot of Texas visits. Looks like there's a lot of A&M visits is what it looks like.
Yeah, I think I have not talked to Zaden. I've reached out to him a few times, but he's pretty good about talking with rivals. And just based on the things I've read and, I think there's a good chance that comes down to an in-state battle. And you look at all those visits, it just makes sense, right? But I don't have a great feel on that one. And most of these things are so early with these 2020.
Well, yeah. I'm just gonna we'll do a few others because you had another guy here, Drew Evers. Where is Flower Mound, Texas?
It's up in the Dallas area. Yeah.
Okay, gotcha.
His brother is a quarterback, and he was. I'm not sure where he is. He was at Oklahoma, and now he's at UConn. Okay. He went from Oklahoma to Wisconsin to UConn. He was a highly ranked quarterback. But Drew is, first off, he's a really good player. He's an interior guy, so you can package him in with those other two that we talked about. And really good player, good dude. Likes Texas a lot. He's pretty open. But he's come into Austin for a couple recruiting events. So, I mean, that tells me he likes Texas. He was supposed to come in for, I think it was the Georgia game. I don't remember exactly what game it was, but his plans fell through at the last minute. But, he's made a point to come down to Texas for multiple visits. So you can see him there. So, but we'll see. His brother went to Oklahoma. Does that help Oklahoma? Does that hurt Oklahoma? I don't know. You see A&M there. So, but I know Texas is squarely in the mix there for Drew Evers.
I mean, what's fascinating, Jason, about this, and I need to go watch his film. I'm fascinated because typically a guy of that size in high school is playing a tackle position. It's very rare that they usually play a tackle in high school, then they move him on the inside, and when they get to college, you don't always see a guy that big playing a guard position in high school, right?
Well, those are just projections on where he'll play in college. When you see these on the Rivals things, that's a kind of like Jonah Williams, they listed as a linebacker, which I don't really agree with, but they're projecting that's what he'll be in college.
All right, let's get to the fun stuff, the things that I love, which are receivers. That's my baby. The receivers and quarterbacks. They already have a quarterback, so there's not much to talk about there. Why does Rivals keep having this one video of this one basketball interview coming up? Like
I don't know. It's on like every profile page. I don't know why.
Who the hell? I'm just out of ignorance. Who are they interviewing?
I don't even know.
They're like, man, this needs to be on everybody's page for everyone to see. Like, whoever this kid is.
Is that LeBron James? Who was like, why is this guy so important? Is that Michael Jordan?
I mean, who is this kid that I'm seeing on every single profile? I'm Rivals. Where's the?
And it's an old interview. I know that because
who is this
doing the interview is no longer with Rivals. So.
I'm like, who the hell is this kid? All right. We've got Caden Dixon-Wyatt. I love hyphenated names, by the way.
Yeah, you see they're out of modern day, arguably the top program in the country. Texas has recruited there before, of course. Number 38 player in the country, just an elite receiver. He's been to Texas a bunch. Really likes the Longhorns. So I put him on my list just because I think, I didn't want to I could have just put the top 10 guys in the country on my list, right? But I wanted to put guys who are actually reasonable possibilities coming to Texas. Caden Dixon-Wyatt, I think, is a very reasonable possibility that he could wind up being a Longhorn.
I mean, it doesn't hurt at this point that if I'm trying to look for his offer list, it doesn't help that if you're a California kid, USC sort of sucks. There's zero motivation to go to UCLA. I mean, so unless you want to go to, I don't see an Oregon offer on here. I'm sure Oregon had to have offered, right? I mean, I just try to think of anything out west that would keep him there. Why is there not an Oregon offer here? That
maybe he hasn't visited there or something. I don't know, but yeah, Oregon's not going to turn down Caden Dixon-Wyatt for sure.
Yeah, but I'm just trying to say, that being said, there's no way I would feel like getting guys out the state of California when you look at those programs in the state for the elite guys, seems like it would be easier now than in years past. You don't think I'm wrong in that assessment?
No, I think that's right. I mean, USC still has some pull there, obviously with Lincoln Riley, but they're not great, right? They haven't been great. So, is that shine starting to wear off a little bit for Lincoln Riley and his offensive reputation? We'll see. Oh, someone said Brock Harris dropped the top 6 that came out last night. I didn't even see that. So we'll see. I'll have to follow up with him on that. But I mean, that's a little surprising to me if that's true, because I mean, he really liked that Texas visit. But I have to see. I haven't even seen that he dropped the top 6 last night.
All right. Well, I'll go look for you. You can tell me about Jalen Lott out of Frisco. He definitely fits the profile. 6 foot, 173. I'm going to assume he's fast. What do you know about him?
Yeah, I packaged him and Caden Finley together because their dads both played at Texas. So I was like, surely these make sense, right? They're both really good players. They're both really good receivers. Their dads both played at Texas. So you got to think Texas is in a great spot there for both of them. Jalen, I mean, it just makes sense that Texas, right, is going to be the top contender there. But he'll tell you, and I haven't talked to him. I've read other reports through Rivals that he's told him, hey, he likes Texas, but he's pretty open. But I think Texas, again, just makes sense. His dad went to Texas, played at Texas. I think Texas looks good there.
Real quick, Jason, I do have this for you. The Brock Harris thing that they're talking about. He's got BYU, Oregon, Utah, Georgia, Michigan, and Miami.
Wow, that's a little surprising. Yeah, honestly, I thought Texas. He came in. He's visited multiple times. Maybe he didn't come in for that Georgia game, so maybe I don't need to follow up with him. But I guess I need to tweak my list, and maybe I'll put another offensive lineman in there then. Because
props to who told us this? Who told us about Brock Harris's list?
Texas 3, 5, 4, 6.
All right. Well, that person, next time they come out to Texas Courthouse, you owe them a drink, because God forbid you would have put the public.
Honestly, I might still leave him on my list. Like, Texas isn't going to stop recruiting that kid. I mean, we've seen with the staff, they don't care if they're in the top 6.
Well, that's true.
I mean, they don't care. They're going to keep recruiting that kid. They know that they need him. They want him, so they'll keep working on him, try to get him back on campus. So they can get him back on campus this summer. Anything's still possible there.
All right, last thing, we'll get out of here with this, Jason. As we kind of speed through everything, just your final thoughts on the Georgia game, and maybe the preliminary thoughts on Texas versus Clemson. Cade Klubnik versus Quinn Ewers, 2 guys you covered pretty heavily back in high school. Just kind of your early thoughts on that.
Yeah, that's funny. And you got Makuba playing his old team, Klubnik, Ewers state championship game. Michael Taft picking up. Well, no, he was picked off Quinn Ewers. I guess.
So at least Taft is on Texas. So
exactly.
That'll help Quinn this time.
My thoughts on the Georgia game were that it was so there for the taking for Texas. They just couldn't make the necessary plays when it was all right there in front of them. Just had to be incredibly frustrating for the team and the fans watching that game, because I feel like we said on the post-game show, if they meet again, I'm not sure Texas doesn't beat them. Texas would probably be favored again, but Georgia seems to have their number. And a lot of it, you can't take away from Georgia. I mean, they play good defense. They control the line of scrimmage. But a lot of it is stuff Texas does to itself in these games against Georgia, missing field goals and turnovers and stupid things like that. So, but ironically, I said it in the post-game show, and then on Sunday, it may have worked out in Texas's favor, because obviously they got a pretty nice draw with Clemson in Austin, and they get Arizona State on a neutral field. So those are both games that Texas will probably be double-digit favorites in, I think. So it might have been a blessing in disguise for Texas to lose that game. Thoughts on Clemson? I haven't started breaking down Clemson yet. Klubnik's a good player, but just based on what I've seen, and I did watch some of that Clemson SMU game, which is a really fun game, by the way. I just can't see where Clemson has much of an edge anywhere on Texas. Maybe special teams. I'll do my matchups and all that stuff. But this certainly feels like a game being in Austin that Texas should win and move on to that next round.
All right, Jason, get out of here. I'm going to wrap it up, and then I'll see you back at noon, okay?
Sounds good, Omar. We'll see you, man.
Jason Sukumel from orangebloods.com. You get all his good stuff there. And speaking of some good stuff here, Eric Torres, Eric Sells Homes, DFW. It's holiday season. You're thinking about what you're going to do in 2025, starting to get your goals set. Maybe thinking about buying a house. Maybe you're thinking about selling your house. Kids are getting ready to move out, and you're thinking to yourself, all right, maybe it's time to downsize. Whatever it is, Eric Sells Homes got you covered. My main man, El Presidente. Check him out. You got the QR code. Check out his Yelp reviews. Check out his Google reviews. Don't just take my word on it. Do your research. You do the due diligence, and you'll find out that he's got you covered. Don't get taken advantage of by your uncles and aunties and them that went and took a little real estate license course, and now all of a sudden they think they can sell a house, and you're going to get screwed over. Go to Eric Sells Homes. You know how kinfolk do. Kinfolk, they swear they got the hookup on something, and you know they do not. And then after you do that, make sure you go to Specs.
No matter what you're needing, Specs same-day delivery can save the day with our Specs app or online shopping. From world-class wines to hard-to-find spirits and craft beers to gourmet foods, delicious snacks, and spectacular sweets. It's Specs.
Cheers to everybody in the chat. Make sure you hit the like button, subscribe to the channel if you have not done so, to get all the news notifications, or you don't get no spam, anything to that effect. All right, typically we do the modcast at 10 o'clock, which would be now, but we pushed it back to noon, so you'll get the modcast crew at noon today. So get ready for that. I'll be back for that one. Chad Hastings will be there. Jason, Alex, and myself. So get ready for the modcast. It's the intro for the outro. Remember, I always say live each day like it's your last, because one day it will be. Go out and do something nice, special for yourself. You absolutely deserve it. Nobody's going to love you like you. Except, of course, your uncle. Y'all take care. See you soon.